and it's November 10th. Welcome to the Please Subscribe Show. Subscribe Show. I'm Cole Spivey, and this is my wife,
Linda Spivey.
And we're headed off to have an adventure, and that's amazing. Tacos are good. still got a bunch of abandoned buildings here in Fort Worth too. This one's been abandoned for a while. There's a few meatpacking plants that are abandoned as well. See the chains right here. Took out the electrical. There. Pretty cool. Well, we got two of them. 2 burgers at McDonald's to drop off at your doorstep. And we'll be there in just a minute. In reality, I talk like this, so don't think any other. I actually talk like this, kind of like David Bowie. Now I'm listening to the spiritual song "p.s.s" by LcSbanD. I was proofreading one of my novels on Fiction Press and fan fiction, and we're headed to Haltom, which actually is one of the settings of my current novel right now, which I'm in part 1. Right now it's an untitled novel, but the first part is called Men, and some of it's set in Haltom City, because I did live a big portion of my life in Haltom City as a young boy. But I also wrote another novel that I'm real proud about. It's kind of my own personal Stand By Me, or The Body, and I call it Catnappers. It's got a little special place in my heart. I just realized something. Stephen King, he's actually Methodist. I didn't even know this, but he was raised Methodist. I went to a Methodist college. It's pretty cool. This is where it all took place, kids. The Catnappers. When we were younger, we'd dress up like ninjas in black outfits and terrorize the neighborhood, toilet papering the house and taking eggs, usually 12 eggs, and we would just launch them at other houses. Why we did it, we didn't really have an answer, but kids do this kind of stuff just when they're younger. Then we took firecrackers and we'd set them off in parks and stuff like that in the middle of the night. And then we'd hide in the bushes all night long until morning. And one time we got in trouble, and Piggy came over and made us clean it up with soap and water. We had to clean a front yard up, the house and everything, with soap and water. And that's Catnappers. Plus it's about chasing these satanic cults around that kidnap kitty cats. Just like this. So we'd run around and throw eggs. So in Catnappers, they run around, they throw eggs, they toilet paper the houses, or what we call TP houses. And they'd plant weird things on cars and then throw fireworks all around. So the kids are armed with fireworks, Chinese stars, throwing daggers, and tunfus. And they're running around the neighborhood, jumping in trees and stuff. And they find out that their cats, the neighborhood cats, have gone missing. And there's rumor that there's a satanic cult kidnapping cats, which they get the term catnappers. Not the kids, but the satanic cults. They're called catnappers. Kind of like kidnapping, but they kidnap cats and then sacrifice them. Well, anyway, that's what the story's about. The kids basically, go looking for them. They never find them, even though they look for them. They find a couple walking a cat and a dog. A couple walk. I think the cat's a Siamese cat. It's some muddy dog. And they throw fireworks at the couple and they go running around. Then they find an old abandoned shack that has an old oil lantern in it. So it's probably a vagrant. And I couldn't see where the hell that was. Anyway, so that's what ends up happening in the story. So in the end of Catnappers, after he discovers the abandoned structure with the oil lamp in it, the kids, they all have different names. They're all kind of living out their fantasies in a way, but they're dressed in ninja outfits, but they all have like kind of nicknames. And they decide to go to this long road, and that's where a truck pulls up. It's just a normal truck, has lights, turns those lights on, and then they all go running in the night. And that's one of the scenes is they take off running in the trees. The next day, a few days later, the main character, the protagonist, goes to a gas station. I believe his name is Jonah, I think. And he sees this guy buying some cigarettes. He has tattoos. He thinks that's one of the catnappers. That's how it ends. So basically, he's at a gas station because they have bikes. The kids all have bicycles. And he sees this guy buying cigarettes, and he has these tattoos all over his arms, and he figures that that's probably one of the catnappers. It's got a kind of Notes of the Underground ending. If you ever read Dostoevsky, it just kind of it just kind of ends almost like Notes. But it's a good story. It's on my fiction press. It's on the descriptions. If you go under my fiction press under Ash Cole, I have a pen name, so I don't write under my name. I write under a pen name, so like an alias. Here is called Fincher. You ever know a director named Fincher? He directed Social Network, the movie about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. He also directed Fight Club and Mind Bomb, if you know anything about that. He directed a lot of his stuff. I think it's called Mind Bomb. Mind something. But anyway, he his best stuff is Fight Club, but he also did Gone Girl. I think his best is Fight Club by far. They say in Fight Club every scene has a photo of Starbucks coffee. So this is kind of an example of what a field would look like in Catnappers, where they're running across the field at night, going through the trees. But the field that I'm actually talking about is in another park called Fossil Creek Park, which is also Haltom. And that's where a lot of it takes place. And that Fossil Creek Park looks almost exactly the same as when I was younger. And that's where Catnappers pretty much takes place in a lot of the areas, especially the areas where the fireworks are and things like that. Because there's a moment where they throw fireworks at these, well, they think they're catnappers. They throw them at, they throw like a handful of blackjacks and cherry bombs and smoke bombs. We could get smoke bombs back in the day. And what are those other things called? I can't think of the name of it. We had those punks. We called them punks. It's like a sparkler. They called the sparklers and bottle rockets. Bottle rockets and those tanks. Remember those tanks? You could light the tanks and the tanks would go. They probably didn't have those back in the 50s, but they had them in the 80s. These little miniature tanks that you could buy. And you'd light them and they just, you throw them at someone, they just catch on fire. They would kind of move a little bit, then they'd shoot out the back, and then they'd blow up. They were called tanks. They're little plastic, or not plastic, but they were made out of almost like paper. They're made out of papers. They're made to catch on fire, but it would have this little firecracker in the front, the firecracker in the back, and you'd light it and it'd start to sparkle, and then it would blow out the back of it. We had things like that. Weird fireworks that we'd throw at people. Well, we didn't throw them. Well, we would throw them at people, but that was called firework standoff, or a firework Mexican standoff kind of thing. Everyone had fireworks and they just throw them at each other and run like hell. Ooh, that was a leaf. Ooh, and they're all the way from Georgia. Here's what Haltom looks like now off of Old Denton Drive. That's the CVS, which used to be a CVS, and now it's nothing. And that was a Kroger, which used to be a Kroger, and now it is nothing. So that Kroger going out of business right there is a pretty big deal. That Kroger's been a Kroger for maybe 50 years or more. All of this area right here, the Planet Fitness is still there, and then there's a thing called Ollie's. So they have Ollie's, so it's still in business. And then all of this used to be in business here. There also used to be where Planet Fitness is. That used to be like a Blockbuster right there. And then that one's gone right there. 5-Star Personal Injury is gone right there. Tabor Rental, that's for lease right there. That Mexican food restaurant's hanging on. That Sonic is doing okay. We hear that bingo place. A friend of mine, his name was Troy Donovan. It happened right around in here. Someone stole a skateboard. This cowboy looking guy, I think it happened right there on the edge. Right there. He came walking up saying, "Hey man, can I try out your skateboard?" We were like, okay, I'm gonna try out your skateboard. And then he grabbed Troy Donovan's skateboard and acted like he was gonna ride it, and then just jumped in his truck with his friends. And my friend lost his skateboard. So I called one of my other friends, Sean, who goes by Scro now. And I said, "Hey, listen, we're all going to go to Dove Park and go skateboarding, but my friend Troy, he lost his skateboard. Can I trade you some Dungeons & Dragons manuals for your Metallica skateboard?" Which is like the worst skateboard you can get. But he was like, "Yeah." So I traded my Dungeons & Dragons modules, like all of them, so that he could get a new skateboard. So Troy could get another skateboard. Then that next day, we went out to go skateboarding. And that's when I got one of probably the worst injuries of my life. It was a spiral fracture to my ankle. And I was out for 6 months and had to learn to walk again. Life is kind of funny, isn't it? We had a good day skating that day. This kid works here. And every time he runs around, you hear this. Like, what is that noise? And he'll run to this car or whatever. Well, he has a change thing, like quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. They're on the back of his belt. And it's like probably, I don't know, $30 worth of change. And he's just jostling it around as he walks around. I thought it was a great character thing. I was going to see if he would run around so you could hear him. But I gotta drop off this food for friends. But that day at Dove Park with the mini ramp, there were other kids that had broken their ankles on that mini ramp as well. The transition was extremely slow. If you're a skateboarder, what transition is basically this. Think of a circle. Now think of a skateboard. There he is right here. Shh, listen. I can't hear it now. But think of a, you could hear it right then, a circle that slowly circles upward. Transition is almost like a surf going up, slowly transitioning up from one point to another. Like a circumference, but a half a circumference, a half a circle. That's kind of a transition. There's good transition and there's bad transition. When the transition's slow, you're more likely to break something than if it's quicker and it has a longer flat bottom, as we called it. The flat bottom, or the flat part of the ramp, because you get there quicker. If it's a slow transition, you're more likely to fall onto the transition rather than the flat bottom. You can have too quick of transition, which I had a friend that had a ramp that was very quick transition, but you're more likely just to fall onto the flat bottom. You don't want it to be too slow or you'll fall onto the transition. If you do the math, then you're falling where the hypotenuse is more exposed and the bone's more likely to break. If you know anything about geometry.